Hi, I'm Tim Tyler, and this is a video about closed source intelligent machines. Basically the theme of the video is the possibility of keeping the algorithm behind intelligent machines secret, and the consequences of that if it were to happen. So to start with, when I was a young programmer back in the 1980s, software was distributed on tape, and it was hard to hide your source code from your customers because they all got copies of it and could examine it and reverse engineer it. The best you could do was a kind of obfuscation, so often at that stage your programs were written in machine code anyway and were quite hard to understand, but you could put your code through an obfuscator that made it even more incomprehensible and destroyed any variable names that remained in the program. With the rise of the internet, however, the situation has become quite different. These days you don't have to give the source code for your programs to your customers. Instead, you can leave it on a server, and your customers basically interact with it using an interface where there's inputs and outputs, and your source code is never revealed because it's kept in a secure location on your own servers. And if you look at many of the successful software companies of the day, they often employ that kind of model, and Google, for example, or Facebook basically keep their source code secret so that their competitors can't access it, and they have their own kind of whole bunch of trade secrets basically associated with their source code, and that makes them into little miniature kind of self-improving ecosystems where they give some things back to the public domain, or at least to the rest of the world, in terms of some of their products, but their kind of core technology is only accessible to them, and it's kind of an improving system that's insulated from the rest of the world, and yeah, only they can access it and benefit from it basically. And similar kind of thing goes on with hedge funds. If you look at the major hedge funds, Bridgewater Associates and so on, a lot of their investments is done by computer programs, and again the core technology behind the computer programs is often kind of secret and associated with just one company. So again, those organisations are developing intelligent machines basically, but they're not sharing their source code with the rest of the world. They're keeping it secret and not allowing their competitors access to it. There's some fairly serious benefits to keeping source code secret. If your competitors can access all your technology, then it reduces the competitive advantage that you have in the marketplace. So there's fairly sound business reasons for not sharing your source code with the world and keeping it to yourself. There's also the issue of whether or not organisations have the technical ability to keep it secret. So sometimes there are leaks, and companies reveal information even though it's not in their best interest to do so. But trade secrets are often kept fairly successfully by companies. If you look at something like Coca-Cola, they've got a secret recipe which they keep in a vault somewhere, no doubt, and it hasn't leaked out for quite a long period of time. And there's a number of other cases. Software companies, for example, rarely have leaks. Occasionally you find the source code of some major website has been accidentally left in a public place on a laptop or something like that, but leaks from major companies that are completely unintentional and that give away a lot of their secrets are relatively rare. Nobody's found out what Google's source code is. Nobody's found out Apple's product release schedule for a long time anyway. So it's fairly easy for large companies to keep secret, it seems. The success rate is quite high, and in some respects it depends on how powerful the attackers are relative to the people who are keeping the secrets. So if you've got a small organisation that's not very powerful facing an attacker who's trying to extract its secrets that is large and powerful, say for example a government or something like that, then it's quite possible that the government might win. But if the organisation itself that's keeping the secrets is itself relatively powerful, then it's easier for them to keep their secrets as genuine secrets basically. Another possibility for leaks might be if the company that's developed algorithms for intelligent machines decides to deploy their algorithms in the form of robots, and obviously there's some advantages to doing that. Kind of machines that are deployed throughout society is a valuable niche for intelligent machines. There's a lot of demand for that kind of machine, and taking Google as an example again, they've got their Android handsets which are deployed throughout society basically, and they've also got search appliances which are deployed inside companies to allow companies to use Google technology in order to search their own databases and things. But in those cases, Google kind of has kept its own search technology, its kind of core technology still is on Google servers and nowhere else, and what it's deployed is a kind of cut down version that it doesn't mind having reverse engineered. So it's still kind of, robots are relatively small, often because they have to move around, or because they have to be deployed in large numbers, and they don't have security associated with them, or not very much in the way of security, so there's no fence around them keeping their source code secret. But on the other hand, they don't need to be vastly intelligent in the first place in order to do most of their roles, so they only get a cut down version of the kind of full product, really. So and the other thing to mention about robots is that the source code can be obfuscated, and obfuscation is a kind of low grade of cryptography, and it's kind of like a form of security through obscurity, which is not regarded as a particularly good form of security by many professionals. However, it's often quite effective in the software field. If you obfuscate your source code, then it gets rid of all the variable names, and basically makes it harder for people to understand your code. If there's a particular algorithm somebody wants to extract, then sometimes they can do that, but if they're trying to maintain a whole system on the same scale as the system that you've deployed, often the obfuscated code is so incomprehensible that your competitors have got a huge job in order to reverse engineer it, and it's often easier for them to start again from scratch, basically, or work from some coherent source code rather than obfuscated code that they've attempted to steal from you. Then next few issues are associated with the forces acting against secrecy. Secrecy, as well as having some advantages, has got costs, and it basically hinders development and large-scale deployment of your code. And if there's pressure from competitors to develop rapidly, then that might result in you having an incentive to kind of take a more open source route and deploy your code more widely and forget about the security associated with it in the hope of just getting your product into as many niches as you can. But those forces, they depend on kind of how much you fear your competitors and how much of a head start you think you've got on them. It's possible that those forces may result in reduced levels of secrecy, but on the other hand, those forces may not be very strong, so in which case you could still keep your product mainly secret. And then another issue is legal protection, patents and so on. I don't think patents are going to be much of a important force in the development of machine intelligence. Basically, if you had developed a machine intelligence algorithm and you patented it, then the government would probably slap a secrecy order on you in the first place, so that reduces the incentive to patent your invention. Also, patents on server-side software hard to enforce. The government, or you've got to find out what kind of software your competitors is using in the first place, and it's often hidden behind the scenes on their server where you can't access it, so you can't kind of prove that they're using your algorithm very easily. So patents just don't offer any protection. Basically, they're ineffective in this particular field. And then probabilities. So I think secrecy is a pretty likely outcome. You see it all over the place at the moment. As I've mentioned, Google and Facebook and many other server-side companies successfully keep their software secret, and I expect that will continue to happen in the case of intelligent machines as well. And the consequences of secrecy are mainly that you get a concentration of power in the hands of a relatively small number of individuals, and that has the potential to result in large-scale inequality. And there's often government forces that oppose that kind of thing, so you've got antitrust commissions and the Monopolies and Mergers Commission that try and prevent too large concentrations of power happening in the hands of any particular companies. And those organisations, if intelligent machines are developed by companies anyway, they're likely to have their hands full in the future with issues of preventing high concentrations of power and huge inequalities. So enjoy.